A billionaire CEO fell to her knees in an empty cathedral and begged, "I'll give you everything I have if you just pray for me." The janitor looked at her and said, "I won't take your money." What happened next wasn't a miracle in the way you'd expect. It was something deeper, a transformation that proved the most powerful prayer is the one that can't be bought. Before this story begins, tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? And if you believe some things are too valuable to have a price, hit that subscribe button. Because what you're about to hear will change everything you think about wealth and peace. Victoria Chen sat in her corner office 73 floors above Manhattan, surrounded by glass and steel and the kind of silence that only extreme wealth could buy. Outside, the city sprawled beneath her like a kingdom she'd conquered through ruthless intelligence and calculated ambition. Inside, she was dying. Not literally, though sometimes she wished it were that simple, that tangible, that diagnosable. What was dying was something harder to name. The part of her that used to feel things, that used to care about something beyond the next acquisition, the next deal, the next victory in a game she'd forgotten how to enjoy. At 41, Victoria Chen was everything she'd set out to become. CEO of Chen Global Investments, worth an estimated $2.3 billion, named to Forbes' most powerful women list for 3 consecutive years. She had homes in 5 countries, an art collection that museums envied, a closet full of clothes she'd worn once and forgotten. She had everything except the ability to sleep through the night without pills, to eat a meal without her stomach clenching with anxiety, to look in the mirror without seeing a stranger wearing her face. The panic attacks had started 6 months ago. They came without warning, in board meetings, at charity galas, once while speaking at a conference in front of 2,000 people. Her heart would race, her vision would narrow, her chest would tighten until she was certain she was dying. The first time, she'd called 911. The paramedics found nothing wrong. Perfect heart, perfect blood pressure, perfect health. Anxiety, the ER doctor had said, handing her a prescription for Xanax. You're experiencing anxiety attacks. Common in high-stress professions. The medication will help. But the medication didn't help. It dulled the edges but left the emptiness intact, like putting a bandage on a wound that went all the way through. She'd tried therapy, 3 different therapists, all highly credentialed, all expensive, all useless. They talked about stress management and work-life balance and cognitive behavioral techniques. None of them understood that the problem wasn't stress. The problem was that she'd built an empire and discovered it was meaningless, and now she was trapped inside a life she'd worked too hard to create to simply walk away from. Her assistant, Michael, knocked on the door with his usual precise 3 taps. "Ms. Chen? You have the Wexler meeting in 15 minutes. Victoria didn't turn from the window. Cancel it." Silence. Michael had worked for her for 7 years and she'd never cancelled a meeting. "Ma'am, this is the acquisition closing. The lawyers are already in conference room A. The Wexler team is." "I said cancel it." Her voice came out flat, dead. "Cancel everything today. I need a day." Another silence. Longer this time. "Of course. Are you? Should I call Dr. Brennan?" Dr. Brennan was her physician, kept on retainer for moments exactly like this. He'd arrive within the hour with discreet medication and discreeter questions. But Victoria was tired of medication. Tired of managing symptoms of a disease that had no name. "No. I'm fine. Just, I'll see you tomorrow." After Michael left, Victoria sat very still in her $8,000 chair and tried to remember the last time she'd felt peace. Real peace, not the pharmaceutical kind or the kind that came from winning. The last time her mind had been quiet not because it was sedated but because it was content. She couldn't remember. Maybe she'd never known it. Her phone buzzed, her personal one, not the work phone that never stopped ringing. A text from her sister Angela, the family disappointment who'd chosen social work over law school, who lived in a modest apartment in Queens and seemed genuinely happy despite having no money, no power, no success by any metric that mattered to their parents. Mom told me about the panic attacks. I'm worried about you. Can we talk? Victoria deleted the message without responding. She didn't need her sister's concern or her not-so-subtle judgment of Victoria's choices. Angela had always been the sensitive one, the one who cared about feelings and meaning and other intangible things that didn't show up on balance sheets. She'd never understood that the world rewarded results, not intentions. But as Victoria sat in her silent office, watching the sun set over a city she'd conquered, she wondered if maybe Angela had understood something she hadn't. The second panic attack of the day hit at 7 p.m., in the empty office, with no one around to see. Victoria's heart hammered, her breath came in short gasps, sweat soaked through her silk blouse. She gripped the edge of her desk and tried the breathing exercises the therapists had taught her. They didn't work. They never worked. Please, she whispered to no one, to the empty room, to whatever might be listening in the universe she'd stopped believing in years ago. Please make it stop. I'll give anything. Anything. But the room stayed silent, and the panic stayed, and Victoria Chen, powerful, wealthy, successful Victoria Chen, curled up on the floor of her corner office and cried with the kind of desperation that money couldn't touch. Victoria left the office at 9 p.m., when she was certain everyone else was gone. She couldn't let anyone see her like this. Makeup smeared, eyes red, hands still shaking slightly from the attack. In her world, weakness was fatal. Show vulnerability once and the sharks circled immediately. She walked instead of calling her driver. It was reckless. Women like her didn't walk alone at night in Manhattan, not without security. But she needed to move, to be anonymous, to escape the glass tower that felt increasingly like a prison. The streets were crowded even at this hour. Tourists, couples, groups of young people heading to bars and restaurants. They looked happy, or at least engaged with their lives in a way Victoria couldn't remember being. She watched them with the distant fascination of an anthropologist studying an alien culture. St. Patrick's Cathedral appeared on her right, its Gothic spires lit dramatically against the night sky. Victoria had passed it thousands of times and never once gone inside. She wasn't religious. Her parents had been nominally Catholic but only in the cultural sense, attending Mass at Christmas and Easter out of tradition rather than belief. Victoria hadn't been inside a church since her grandmother's funeral 15 years ago. But tonight, for reasons she couldn't articulate, she stopped. The doors were open, warm light spilling out onto the sidewalk. Without deciding to, without planning it, Victoria climbed the steps and went inside. The interior was vast, quiet, beautiful in a way that Victoria's expensive art collection never managed to be. Vaulted ceilings soared overhead, stained glass windows glowed with subtle light, rows of wooden pews stretched toward an ornate altar. A few people scattered throughout, an elderly woman with a rosary, a young couple holding hands, a homeless man sleeping in a back pew that a security guard was gently waking. Victoria sat down in a pew near the back, as far from other people as possible. She didn't know why she was here. She didn't believe in God, didn't believe in prayer, didn't believe in anything except what could be quantified and measured and acquired. But something about the space made her feel less alone in her desperation, less ridiculous in her brokenness. "First time?" a soft voice asked. Victoria turned. A woman had sat down in the pew behind her, not beside her, which would have been intrusive, but close enough to talk. She was maybe 60, with gray hair pulled back simply and a face lined with the kind of wear that came from a hard life lived openly. She wore a janitor's uniform, dark blue pants and shirt with a name tag that read Rosa. "I'm sorry," Victoria said, her corporate voice automatically kicking in, the one that established distance and authority. "First time in a church," Rosa said, not at all deterred by Victoria's tone. "You have that look. Like you're not sure if you're allowed to be here." "I'm just sitting," Victoria said, wanting this woman to go away, to leave her alone with her expensive misery. "Good a reason as any." Rosa was quiet for a moment, then, "You look troubled, if you don't mind me saying." Victoria did mind. She minded very much. She didn't come here to be observed by a janitor, to have her carefully maintained facade penetrated by some stranger who probably wanted money or had some agenda or— "I'm fine," Victoria said coldly. "Thank you for your concern." She stood to leave, to return to the lonely safety of her penthouse, but Rosa's next words stopped her. "You're crying." Victoria touched her face and found it wet. She hadn't even noticed. The tears were just there, leaking out like water from a cracked vessel. She tried to wipe them away quickly, to restore her armor, but more came. "I'm sorry," Victoria said, humiliated. "I don't know why I should go." "Sit," Rosa said, not as a command but as an invitation. "Please. Just for a minute." Victoria should have left. Every instinct told her to leave, to preserve her dignity, to not let this stranger see her vulnerable. But she was so tired of being alone with her fear, so tired of pretending she was fine, so tired of carrying everything by herself. She sat. Rosa came around and sat beside her, not too close, leaving space. She didn't ask questions or offer platitudes. She just sat, her presence somehow comforting in its simplicity. "I don't know why I'm here," Victoria finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't believe in any of this. I haven't been in a church in years. I couldn't be alone anymore." "That's as good a reason as any to be here," Rosa said. "Maybe the best reason. Do you work here?" Victoria asked, noticing the janitor's uniform, the cleaning cart visible near a side door. "Part-time. Night shift. I clean the cathedral after evening services. Been doing it for 12 years now." Rosa smiled. "Not glamorous work, but it's peaceful. Good place to think. Good place to pray." "I don't know how to pray," Victoria said, the confession surprising her. "I mean, I used to as a child. But I don't believe in it anymore. I don't believe in anything except what I can see and measure and control." "And how's that working for you?" Rosa asked, not unkindly. Victoria laughed, a bitter sound that held no humor. "Not well. Not well at all." They sat in silence for a long moment. Victoria found herself wanting to talk, wanting to tell this stranger things she hadn't told anyone. Maybe because Rosa was a stranger, maybe because she'd never see her again, maybe because something about the quiet space made honesty feel possible. "I have everything," Victoria said finally. "Everything I worked for, everything I wanted. Success, money, power. And I'm drowning. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I have panic attacks that feel like dying. And I don't know why, because I have everything." Rosa nodded slowly, as though this made perfect sense to her. "What are you afraid of?" "Everything," Victoria said. "Nothing. I don't know. That I've wasted my life chasing things that don't matter. That I've become someone I don't recognize. That I'm successful and empty and it's too late to be anything else." "It's never too late," Rosa said simply. "That's what people say who haven't built what I've built. I can't just walk away. I have responsibilities, shareholders, employees. I can't just decide I made a mistake and start over." "Maybe not," Rosa agreed. "But you can decide who you are inside what you've built. You can choose what matters going forward." Victoria looked at this woman, this janitor with her simple wisdom and her worn face, and felt something crack inside her chest. "I don't know how. I'm so lost. I've been lost for so long I don't remember the way back." Rosa reached out and took Victoria's hand. The gesture was so simple, so human, that Victoria nearly pulled away from the intimacy of it. But she didn't. She let this stranger hold her hand in a cathedral at night while tears ran down her face. "Can I pray for you?" Rosa asked quietly. Victoria almost laughed. Prayer. As if prayer could fix the fundamental emptiness of her life, as if words spoken to an absent God could heal the wound of her success. But she heard herself say, "Yes, Please. Rosa didn't release Victoria's hand. Instead, she held it gently, with a kind of touch that suggested she knew about pain, about fear, about the weight of being human in a world that demanded strength. I don't have money to give you, Victoria said suddenly, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. I mean, I do. I have a lot of money. If you want me to donate to the church or to you personally, I can write a check. Any amount. I'll give you everything I have if you can make this stop. If you can pray and make me feel anything except this. Rosa looked at her with eyes that held no judgment, only a kind of profound sadness. Oh, sweetheart, I'm not praying for money. I'm praying because you need someone to pray for you. That's all. No payment required. Victoria felt ashamed that she'd immediately tried to turn even this into a transaction, that she couldn't imagine receiving something without paying for it, that her first instinct was to establish the terms of exchange. I'm sorry, she whispered. I don't know how to receive things. I only know how to buy them. I know, Rosa said gently. But tonight, you're going to receive something freely. And it's going to be okay. Rosa bowed her head, still holding Victoria's hand, and began to pray. Not the formal prayers Victoria vaguely remembered from childhood, the Our Fathers and Hail Marys recited without thought or feeling. Rosa's prayer was simple, personal, spoken like she was talking to someone she knew well. God, Rosa said, her voice soft in the vast space. I'm sitting here with Victoria, who's carrying so much weight she can't breathe under it. She's successful and scared. She's powerful and lost. She's surrounded by everything except what she actually needs. Victoria felt tears streaming down her face, but she couldn't wipe them away because Rosa was holding her hand. She doesn't believe you're listening, Rosa continued. And that's okay. You love the doubters too. You love the broken ones, the lost ones, the ones who built empires and found them empty. You love Victoria exactly as she is right now. Afraid, confused, desperate for something she can't name. The words landed on Victoria like blows to something she'd been protecting, some defensive wall she'd built so carefully over decades of climbing and achieving and winning. She needs peace, Rosa said. Not the kind she can buy or earn or achieve. The kind that comes from knowing she's enough, just as she is. Not as who she pretends to be or who she thinks she should be. Just enough. Victoria made a sound, half sob, half gasp. The word enough pierced something in her chest. When was the last time she'd felt enough? When had she ever felt enough? There was always more to achieve, more to prove, more to acquire. Enough was a destination that retreated the closer she got to it. Help her remember that she's not just what she's accomplished, Rosa prayed. That her worth isn't in her success or her wealth or her power. That underneath all of that, she's just a person who deserves love and peace and rest. Help her know that in her bones, where all the accomplishments can't reach. Rosa paused, and in the silence, Victoria could hear her own ragged breathing, the sound of her carefully constructed life cracking apart. And God, if you're listening, and I know you are, help her forgive herself. For what? Victoria whispered, the words escaping before she could stop them. Rosa opened her eyes and looked at Victoria. For whatever you've been carrying. Whatever you did or didn't do that you can't let go of. Whatever makes you feel like you don't deserve peace. And suddenly, Victoria knew. She knew exactly what she'd been carrying, what she'd been running from for 15 years. My grandmother, Victoria heard herself say, the words coming from somewhere deep she'd locked away. She was dying. Cancer. She asked me to come see her, to spend time with her before the end. But I was closing a deal. My first major deal. The one that launched my career. It was worth $40 million, and it required me to be in Singapore for 2 weeks of negotiations. Rosa listened without interrupting, without judgment, just holding Victoria's hand in the quiet church. I told her I'd come after the deal closed. I promised. She said she understood, that she was proud of me, that she'd wait. But she didn't wait. She died 3 days before I came back. I missed it. I missed saying goodbye because I was closing a fucking deal. Victoria's voice cracked on the last words. She'd never said this out loud, not to anyone. Not to the therapists who'd tried to excavate her past. Not to her sister who'd been there, who'd held their grandmother's hand while Victoria was 12 time zones away choosing success over family. My sister was there, Victoria continued, the words pouring out now like water from a broken dam. Angela. She dropped everything. She was in college, she had exams, she had a life. But she dropped it all and spent those last weeks with Grandma. She held her hand. She read to her. She was there when she died. And I was in a conference room in Singapore, celebrating a deal I can't even remember the details of now. And you've been punishing yourself ever since, Rosa said quietly. I chose wrong, Victoria whispered. I had one chance to choose what mattered, and I chose money. I chose success. And I can never undo that. I can never go back. She died thinking I cared more about a deal than about her. Did she? Rosa asked gently. Or did she die knowing you were building the life you thought would make her proud? Victoria looked at Rosa through blurred vision. It doesn't matter. I should have been there. Nothing else matters. You're right, Rosa said, and Victoria felt the words like a physical blow. She'd expected comfort, expected to be told she was being too hard on herself. Instead, Rosa agreed. You should have been there. That was a choice you made, and it's a choice you'll carry forever. That's the truth. Victoria pulled her hand away, anger flashing through the grief. Then why are you praying for me? If I'm unforgivable, if I made a choice I can never undo. I didn't say you were unforgivable, Rosa interrupted, her voice still gentle but firm. I said you made a choice you'll carry. Those aren't the same thing. You can carry something and still find peace with it. You can acknowledge a mistake without letting it destroy you. How? Victoria asked, desperate now. How do I forgive myself for that? How do I live with knowing I failed her? By understanding that you were 26 years old, terrified of failing, convinced that success was the only way to prove your worth. By understanding that you made a mistake from fear, not from cruelty. By understanding that your grandmother loved you anyway, even disappointed. By understanding that punishing yourself for 15 years hasn't brought her back and hasn't made anything better. But I don't deserve to stop carrying it, Victoria said, and the words revealed the core of everything. The belief that she had to suffer, that peace was something she'd forfeited through her choice. That's not for you to decide, Rosa said firmly. That's between you and God or the universe, or whatever you believe is bigger than you. But I can tell you this. Your grandmother wouldn't want you to spend your life drowning in guilt. She'd want you to learn from it. To be different. To choose differently next time. There is no next time, Victoria said bitterly. She's gone. But you're not, Rosa said. You're here. You're alive. And you have choices every single day about who you want to be. You can keep being the woman who missed her grandmother's death and punishes herself by building empires that feel empty. Or you can become the woman who learned from that mistake and chooses presence over success, connection over achievement, love over fear. I don't know how to be that person. Then learn, Rosa said simply. Start small. Start today. Choose one thing that matters more than success and choose it. Then tomorrow, choose it again. That's how you become a different person, not through one grand gesture, but through 10,000 small choices. Victoria sat in the silence of the cathedral, feeling something shifting inside her chest. Not the panic, not the anxiety, but something else. Something that felt like the first breath after being underwater too long. Will you pray for me again? Victoria asked quietly. Please? I know I offered money before, and you said no, but I'm asking now without trying to buy it. I'm asking because I need it. Because I can't do this alone. Rosa smiled. A real smile that transformed her worn face. Of course, sweetheart. That's what I'm here for. This time, when Rosa prayed, Victoria closed her eyes too. She didn't believe in God, didn't believe in divine intervention, didn't believe in anything she couldn't quantify. But she believed in this moment, in this woman's kindness, in the possibility that maybe she didn't have to carry everything alone. God, help Victoria forgive herself, Rosa prayed. Help her understand that she was young and afraid and human. Help her see that mistakes, even terrible ones, don't define us forever. Help her know that she's loved, by her grandmother who's gone, by the people in her life she's been too afraid to let close, by the universe that made her and holds her still. Victoria felt something releasing in her chest, like a fist that had been clenched for 15 years finally opening. Help her sleep tonight without pills, Rosa continued. Help her wake up tomorrow and make one choice for connection instead of achievement. Help her call her sister. Help her say she's sorry. Help her start the hard work of becoming who she's meant to be instead of who she's afraid to be. When Rosa finished, they sat in silence for a long time. Victoria's tears had stopped, but her face was wet, her makeup ruined, her expensive silk blouse wrinkled. She looked nothing like the powerful CEO who'd walked into this church an hour ago. She looked like someone who'd been broken and might, possibly, be starting to heal. "Thank you," Victoria whispered. I don't know what just happened. But thank you. You let yourself be human," Rosa said. "That's what happened. You stopped performing strength and let yourself be vulnerable. That's the bravest thing you can do." "I still don't know what to do," Victoria admitted. "About my life. About my company. About all of it." "You don't have to know tonight," Rosa said. "Tonight, you just have to go home and sleep. Tomorrow you can start making different choices. Small ones. One at a time." Victoria nodded slowly. She stood, her legs shaky, and looked at Rosa, really looked at her. Can I come back? To talk to you again? I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday night," Rosa said. 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Cleaning and praying for whoever needs it. You're always welcome. "I don't usually ask for help," Victoria said. "I don't usually need anyone." "Everyone needs someone," Rosa said gently. "You've just been pretending you don't. But pretending costs more than asking. You're learning that now." Victoria reached into her purse, an instinct so automatic she didn't even think about it. She pulled out her checkbook, her hand moving to write before Rosa stopped her. "No payment," Rosa said firmly. "I meant what I said. This isn't a transaction." "But I want to give you something," Victoria said, desperate suddenly to repay this gift she couldn't value. "You've given me. I don't even know what you've given me. But I need to give you something back." "Then give me your word," Rosa said. "Promise me you'll call your sister tonight. Promise me you'll tell her what you told me. That's the payment I want. Not money, but action. Change. Choose connection. Can you do that?" Victoria thought about Angela, about the years of distance she'd maintained, about the pride that had kept her from admitting she was drowning. "Yes," she said finally. "I can do that." "Then that's all I need," Rosa said. "Go home, Victoria. Rest. Tomorrow will be different if you let it be." Victoria's penthouse felt different when she entered at midnight. The same expensive furniture, the same curated art, the same floor-to-ceiling windows with their spectacular view. But everything looked different through eyes that had been crying for an hour, through a heart that had cracked open in a cathedral. She stood in her kitchen, which cost more than most people's houses and which she rarely used, and made tea. Not because she wanted tea, but because it was something normal people did, something human, something other than reaching for Xanax or wine or the laptop that would let her escape into work. Her phone sat on the counter, and Angela's unanswered text stared up at her. "I'm worried about you. Can we talk?" Victoria picked up the phone. Put it down. Picked it up again. Her hands were shaking, not from panic this time, but from the vulnerability of what she was about to do. She called Angela. It rang 4 times, and Victoria was about to hang up, about to let herself off the hook, when her sister answered. "Vicky." Angela's voice was sleepy, confused. "It's midnight. Are you okay?" Victoria opened her mouth to say she was fine, to fall back on the automatic response she'd perfected over decades. Instead, what came out was, "No, I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for a long time." Silence. Then, "Tell me." And Victoria did. She told her sister about the panic attacks, about the emptiness, about the success that felt like failure. She told her about walking into a cathedral and meeting a janitor who prayed for her. She told her about the weight she'd been carrying, about the guilt that had been crushing her for 15 years. "I'm so sorry," Victoria whispered, crying again, exhausted from crying but unable to stop. About Grandma. About not being there. About choosing a deal over her. About everything. "I'm so sorry, Angela." "I know," Angela said, and her voice was thick with emotion too. "I've been angry at you for 15 years. Did you know that? Angry that you weren't there. Angry that I had to handle it alone. Angry that you couldn't pause your precious career for 2 weeks to say goodbye to the woman who raised us." The words hurt, but Victoria welcomed the pain. It was honest pain, real pain, not the numb emptiness she'd been living with. "But," Angela continued, "I also knew you were drowning in guilt. I saw it at the funeral. In your eyes. You looked like someone who'd made a mistake they couldn't undo and couldn't forgive. And part of me, the petty part, was glad you were suffering. But most of me just wanted my sister back. The sister I had before success swallowed her whole." "I don't know if I can get her back," Victoria said. "I don't know if she still exists." "She does," Angela said firmly. "She called me at midnight, crying, admitting she's not okay. That's her. The real Victoria who exists under all the armor. And I've missed her so much." They talked for 2 hours. Victoria learned that Angela had been struggling too. Single mother, working 2 jobs, raising a daughter alone while trying to help the families in her caseload. That Angela's apparent happiness was real but complicated, that she'd chosen meaning over money but still struggled with money, that she sometimes wondered if Victoria had made the smarter choice. "The grass is always greener," Angela said ruefully. "I thought you had it figured out. Success, wealth, freedom from worry. I didn't realize you were as lost as I sometimes feel." "Different kinds of lost," Victoria said. "But lost nonetheless." "So what do we do?" Angela asked. "How do we stop being lost?" "I met a woman tonight," Victoria said slowly. "A janitor at St. Patrick's. She prayed for me. Not for money. I offered and she refused. She prayed because I needed someone to pray for me. And she told me to make small choices. One at a time. Choices for connection instead of achievement." "That's beautiful," Angela said softly. "Will you do it?" "I'm trying," Victoria said. "I called you. That's the first choice. And tomorrow. I don't know. Maybe I'll make another one. Can I make a request?" Angela asked. "For what your second choice could be?" "Okay. Come have dinner with me and Maya. Just dinner. At my apartment in Queens. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and conversation and being together. Can you do that?" Victoria thought about her schedule, the meetings, the conference calls, the endless demands on her time. Then she thought about Rosa's prayer, about choosing connection, about making different choices one at a time. "Yes," Victoria said. "When?" Tomorrow night. If you can. If work allows. Tomorrow night, Victoria interrupted. Work doesn't allow, but I'm doing it anyway. What time? 6. Angela sounded surprised, hopeful. And Vicky? Thank you. For calling. For being honest. For letting me in. After they hung up, Victoria sat in her expensive kitchen with her cold tea and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Anticipation. Not the anxious anticipation of a deal closing or a presentation or maintaining her image, but simple, human anticipation of seeing her sister, meeting her niece properly, eating spaghetti in a modest apartment and being nothing except herself. She slept that night without pills. For the first time in 6 months, she slept straight through until morning, dreamless and deep. The dinner at Angela's was awkward at first. Victoria arrived in her work clothes, a designer suit that cost more than Angela's monthly rent, feeling overdressed and out of place in the small queen's apartment. Maya, her 8-year-old niece who Victoria had met exactly 3 times, stared at her aunt with the unfiltered assessment of children. You look like a TV person, Maya announced. But sad. Are you sad? Maya, Angela said, embarrassed. That's not polite. It's okay, Victoria said, kneeling down to Maya's level. I am sad sometimes, but I'm working on being less sad. And I'm happy to be here with you. Okay, Maya said, satisfied. Do you like spaghetti? Mom makes it good but not fancy. Not fancy sounds perfect, Victoria said, and meant it. The dinner was simple. Spaghetti with jarred sauce, garlic bread, a salad from a bag. Victoria ate more than she had in months, not because the food was exceptional but because she was actually present for the meal, actually tasting it, actually enjoying the company instead of eating as a necessary interruption to work. Maya talked about school, about her friends, about the book she was reading. Angela talked about her cases, about the families she was helping, about the small victories that sustained her. And Victoria found herself talking too, not about deals or acquisitions or her company, but about feeling lost, about trying to find her way back to something real. Aunt Victoria, Maya said as she was getting ready for bed, are you going to come back? Do you want me to? Victoria asked. Yes. You're less scary when you're here. At Grandma's funeral, you were really scary. Victoria thought about that funeral. The armor she'd worn, the control she'd maintained, the way she'd refused to cry or show weakness even as her sister fell apart beside her. I was scared then too, Victoria told Maya. I just didn't know how to show it. It's okay to be scared, Maya said with the wisdom of 8-year-olds. Mom says being scared just means you're doing something new. After Maya was asleep, Victoria and Angela sat on the small balcony with cheap wine and talked about their grandmother. She knew you loved her, Angela said finally, after Victoria had apologized again for not being there. She told me, the day before she died. She said, Victoria is doing what she thinks will make me proud. She doesn't know yet that she already does. Victoria felt tears streaming down her face again. She seemed to cry constantly now, the tears coming easily after years of keeping them locked away. I've been punishing myself for 15 years for something she'd already forgiven. Yeah, Angela said. You have. And it hasn't brought her back or made anything better. So maybe it's time to forgive yourself too. I don't know how. The same way you do anything else. One choice at a time. You came to dinner tonight. That's a choice. You called me last night. That's a choice. You'll come back next week and the week after. More choices. Eventually, the choices add up to a different life. Victoria started coming to dinner every Tuesday. She moved meetings, rescheduled calls, simply said no to obligations that had seemed unbreakable. Her staff noticed the change. Their demanding, unreachable CEO suddenly leaving the office at 5 p.m. on Tuesdays, unavailable for evening emergencies. She also returned to St. Patrick's on Thursday nights. Rosa was always there, cleaning the cathedral, available for conversation. They'd talk for an hour during Rosa's break, about guilt, about forgiveness, about the difference between success and meaning. "You're changing," Rosa observed one night, 3 months after their first meeting. "You look lighter somehow." "I feel lighter," Victoria admitted. "It's strange. I'm working less, achieving less by traditional metrics. My board is concerned about my decreased engagement. But I'm sleeping without pills. I'm eating real meals. I know my niece's favorite color and her best friend's name. I'm becoming someone I actually recognize." "That's the real miracle," Rosa said. "Not the dramatic kind people expect. Just the slow transformation of becoming human again." "I still have panic attacks sometimes," Victoria confessed. "Not as often, but they still happen. Usually when I'm falling back into old patterns, when I'm choosing achievement over connection." "They're reminders," Rosa said. "Your body telling you when you're moving away from yourself. Listen to them. They're gifts, even though they feel like curses." "I never thanked you properly," Victoria said. "That first night. You prayed for me when I offered you money and you refused. You gave me something I couldn't buy. And it changed my life." "I didn't change anything," Rosa said gently. "You did. I just reminded you that change was possible. That you didn't have to stay in a life that was killing you." "I want to do something," Victoria said. "Not pay you. I know you won't accept that. But something. There must be something you need. Your church, your life, something I could help with." Rosa was quiet for a moment, considering. "There is one thing. Anything. Teach," Rosa said. "Teach other people what you're learning. You're not the only successful person drowning in emptiness. You're just one of the few brave enough to admit it. Share your story. Let people know that another way is possible." "6 months after that first prayer in the cathedral, Victoria did something that terrified her more than any business deal ever had. She spoke honestly at an industry conference. She was supposed to give her usual presentation, maximizing shareholder value in a volatile market. Instead, she told the truth. "I had everything," she told an audience of 300 executives, CEOs, and investors. "Wealth, power, success beyond my wildest ambitions. And I was dying inside. Panic attacks. Insomnia. A life so empty it felt like drowning." The room went silent. "You didn't admit weakness at these conferences. You didn't show vulnerability to competitors and colleagues. 6 months ago, I met a woman who worked as a janitor. She prayed for me when I offered her money and she refused payment. She taught me that the most valuable things in life can't be bought. Peace, connection, purpose, forgiveness. And she challenged me to make different choices. One at a time. Small ones. Choices for meaning instead of achievement." Victoria watched faces in the audience, some skeptical, some uncomfortable, some hungry for what she was describing. "I'm not saying abandon your careers or give away your wealth," she continued. "I'm still CEO. I still run my company. But I work 60 hours a week now instead of 90. I have dinner with my sister every Tuesday. I know my niece. I sleep without medication. And I'm more effective now than I was when I was drowning, because I'm actually present for my life instead of just performing it." After the speech, 17 people approached her. Not to network or make deals, but to quietly ask, "How did you do it? How did you find your way back?" Victoria gave them Rosa's name and the cathedral's address. "Thursday nights," she said. "There's a woman there who prays for people. She won't take your money. She'll just help you remember what matters." Over the following months, a quiet stream of executives and entrepreneurs found their way to St. Patrick's on Thursday nights. Rosa's cleaning break became an informal counseling session, where successful people came to remember their humanity. "You've started something," Rosa told Victoria one evening, as they watched a young tech CEO crying in a back pew, releasing the pressure of performing success. "People are finding their way here because you were brave enough to admit you were lost." "I just told the truth," Victoria said. "About being broken. About needing help I couldn't buy. About finding you." "The truth is revolutionary," Rosa said. "Especially when successful people tell it. Everyone assumes you all have it figured out. When you admit you don't, you give others permission to admit the same." Victoria's company didn't collapse when she started working less. In fact, something unexpected happened. It became more human. She implemented policies that prioritized people over profit. Reasonable hours, mental health support, encouragement to have lives outside work. Some board members complained, warned that it would hurt competitiveness. But productivity increased. Retention improved. The company became known as a place where you could be successful and human simultaneously. "You're creating culture change," her CFO told her. "Not through some corporate initiative, but through actually being different yourself. People see you leaving at 5 on Tuesdays and it gives them permission to have boundaries too." On the anniversary of that first prayer, Victoria returned to St. Patrick's with Angela and Maya. They found Rosa cleaning, as always, and Victoria introduced her to her family. "This is the woman I told you about," Victoria said to Angela. "The one who prayed for me, who helped me find my way back to you." Rosa embraced Angela warmly. "Your sister talks about you constantly, about how brave you are, choosing meaning over money all those years ago. She's learning from you now." "We're learning from each other," Angela said. "That's what family does." They sat together in a pew, Victoria, Angela, Maya, and Rosa. For women who shouldn't have had anything in common but who were connected by prayer, by honesty, by the choice to value what money couldn't buy. "Can I ask you something?" Victoria said to Rosa. "That first night when I offered you money, everything I had, did you know what would happen? Did you know that refusing payment would mean more than accepting it?" Rosa smiled. "I knew that accepting money would make it a transaction, and transactions end when the payment is complete. But giving freely, that creates relationship. That creates connection. That lasts." "I wanted to buy healing," Victoria said. "To purchase peace the way I'd purchased everything else. And you taught me that some things can only be received, never bought." "You're still learning that," Rosa said gently. "You still try to pay for things sometimes, to control outcomes, to manage your healing like a project. But you're getting better at receiving, at letting people help you without needing to repay them." Maya, who'd been quiet throughout this conversation, suddenly spoke up. "Are you going to pray for Aunt Victoria again? Like you did before? Would you like me to?" Rosa asked Victoria. Victoria nodded, tears already forming. After a year of crying regularly, she'd learned that tears weren't weakness, they were honesty. They were the body's way of releasing what couldn't be held anymore. Rosa took Victoria's hand, just as she had that first night. But this time, Angela took Victoria's other hand. And Maya, not wanting to be left out, held Angela's. "God," Rosa prayed, her voice soft in the vast cathedral, "thank you for Victoria. For her courage to admit she was broken. For her willingness to change. For her choice to value connection over achievement, meaning over success, presence over power." Victoria felt the tears streaming down her face, but she didn't try to stop them. "Thank you for her relationship with Angela and Maya," Rosa continued. "For the family that was lost and is being found again. For the slow, hard work of learning to be human after years of being a brand, a CEO, a success story. Help her keep choosing what matters," Rosa prayed. "When the old patterns call her back, when achievement looks easier than connection, when control seems safer than vulnerability. Help her remember this moment, this prayer, this choice to receive what she can't buy. And help her forgive herself completely, Rosa said, her voice firm now. For her grandmother. For the years of running. For all the ways she's been human and imperfect. Help her know that forgiveness isn't earned, it's received. Like grace. Like love. Like this prayer that costs nothing and changes everything. When Rosa finished, the four women sat in silence. Maya leaned against her mother. Angela leaned against Victoria. And Victoria leaned into the peace that had slowly, gradually, one choice at a time, become her reality. I still don't fully believe in God, Victoria admitted. But I believe in this. In prayer. In the power of being seen and held and helped without transaction. In whatever force in the universe makes that possible. That's enough, Rosa said. Belief isn't about certainty. It's about being willing to receive what you can't explain or control or buy. You're doing that now. That's all anyone can do.